Okay, so welcome if you are here. Welcome if you are watching this at a later time. Um, what I started to speak to before I hit record was this idea of wherever you be right now, just taking a moment to be more still, more present with your breath. What does that feel like when we set an intention? You don't even need to call it setting an intention, but when you're more aware of what you're doing in every now moment, like the invitation for you right now, if it's safe for you to be still and close your eyes and just be present with your breath, that alone is setting an intention to bring awareness to what is happening right now. What's moving through you right now? Because everything comes and moves through us. It wants to move through us. Trauma is simply feelings unfelt. So when in our past we didn't have the resources or the tools to process our feelings, it becomes traumatic for us because the prize of this life is feeling. It's emotions, because when we're willing and able to feel, like truly feel our anger, our joy, our fear, our bliss, all of it, the whole spectrum, when we finally accept our humanity and are willing to feel it without avoiding it or numbing out, that's the prize, because then we're gathering lived experience as a human, and that's where the learning, the wisdom comes. It's from feeling our emotions and loving ourselves enough to show up and not run, but just stay with ourselves and feel. And then we gather the lived experience, the wisdom of what it feels like to be us, experiencing life as I am female and I'm white and I'm cisgendered. Um, yeah, that's this experience of life for me now. I don't know how many of you believe in multiple lives. I never did. I was raised in a different religious system than what I believe now. And it's interesting because if I really am curious about multiple lives or lived experience, I really have one, if I believe that I just have one life, that seems like I'm missing out on being able to have the experience of what it would be like to be something other than this persona this time. Anyway, I'm like off on a tangent now. I'm inviting you here. If you're here for the first time, welcome. If you've been here before, still welcome. What I want to speak to today is the invitation to be more still. Always, always, that's the invitation. Be here with your breath, be present, observe what's moving through you. If there is frustration, resentment, um, anxiety, depression, like grief, anything, just be here with it, observe it. I would love to support you in any way if you feel safe enough to share what might be moving through you. I am a clinically trained therapist who weaves spirituality into psychology. I weave metaphysical things that you can't see, which would be considered spiritual things, into quantum physics, like science and psychology and clinical things, things that have helped heal me on the deepest levels. That's what I love to share. And as I sit with clients and share the things that I have gathered, um, help them. I feel like I'm a mirror helping people understand the depth of their own wisdom, that all of the love and the wisdom that we seek in degrees or maybe relationships, the love and the attention and the validation. Um, that's what we've seen modeled over and over. That's how we were raised. At least that's how I can only speak to my own lived experience as a human, that that's what I saw modeled is um, seeking for things outside of me to help me feel safer, to feel more seen, to feel more loved, more comfortable, being human. And for now, what my understanding is, and it feels so true, even when I speak it or feel into it, that the greatest, like, okay, I'm going to read this because I read this morning and I was like, oh my goodness, I want to share this. Um, I'm going to read it straight from here, this book. Ramtha. If you've never read Ramtha or heard of this book, these books, there's several books. It's a channeled information from an entity that speaks such beautiful truth. And so I wouldn't have been ready to read this even some months ago, but somehow it came into my awareness and I've been reading it and it's so beautiful. But he speaks to this idea that no one, so I was just speaking about this, no one can lift self, love self as self can. The grandest compliment self can be paid is by its own wondrous being. And I know if I speak this out loud, some people might feel resistance around it because I know I have. There's been huge moments in my life, for most of my life, where that concept was something I actually would avoid. Loving myself. What would that even look like? And it's interesting because I never thought of myself as not liking myself. I'm like, of course I love myself. But then I never paid attention to my inner dialogue, what I was saying to myself, what I was saying about myself to other people, what I actually believed was that my actions were showing something different than what I thought I believed. And subconsciously, we gather all these reasons to not remember how awesome we are when we're young. If our parents weren't able to show up for us in all the ways that would be impossible for a human who is not perfect to not be able to show up for their children, which is very normal. But that in and of itself is the perfect curriculum for us to start remembering that we are the ones who get to give that to us and stop waiting for a parent to give that to us or waiting for a relationship or a job or a degree or some sort of validation outside of us. So I hope this makes sense when I say this. This other idea is that every day, everyone should lift themselves to a lofty perception. And it isn't selfish and it isn't narcissism. It's not looking in a mirror and repeating over and over and over, oh, I love you, or you are awesome. It is actually a quiet inner experience. It's stepping into stillness and with intention, starting to really tend to yourself in a new way. So when I work with women, I use this metaphor a lot because women can relate to this, but I'm going to use it for men too, because I think actually, I know having lived with or having the experience of working with couples and as a therapist and working with individuals as well, both male and female, that what lives inside each one of us is male and female energy, right? It's we have seen modeled very wounded masculine and feminine energies. And so we are kind of right at this threshold where things are starting to change. People are becoming more aware or conscious that what we saw modeled by our parents and our grandparents, our ancestors, was not healthy, not a healthy way to show up in our masculine and feminine energies. To have those balanced in a conscious, aware way means that we are showing up for ourselves first. First and foremost, the relationship we have with all the aspects of us, our soul, our sexuality, our mental health, our emotional body, our etheric body, all of these energies working together to be, yes, you can share. Truman's asking to share something. And if you have anything you want to put in the chat, I will read that and respond to that as well. But when we are able to be right here and know that as we have a relationship with all of these aspects of ourselves and create an alliance with those aspects that are never not with us, that's when everything starts to shift. Yes, you can look in a mirror and you can say, I love you, I love you. But if you don't like the reflection in the mirror, can you go up to a mirror and scrub off something? If I didn't like, oh, I don't like my nose. Oh, the meeting link. I can send you the link, Truman, in let me send you the link here. Via I'm going to send it to you. Hold on, right here. I'm copying it and sending it to you on message. Okay. Sorry. Truman. Here you are. Here is the link. You can share. Actually, I already sent it with you. So here it is. Send it to you, but here it is again. Okay. No, it's okay. I'm watching this thing over here between Truman and Eli, buddies. And Truman is my son. Eli is his awesome friend who shows up here. And this is what I love about this generation is their willingness, these young men, their willingness to actually show up in a different way because they can sense it actually is really beautiful. It's changing how they show up for themselves so they can show up in relationship with everything else because they did it here first. How do we ever believe we can be in relationship, deep emotional connection, which is why we're here, right? But we think we want that. I spoke to this last week to the women. I had this epiphany last week where I'm like, what is it that I truly long for, that my heart longs for? And it's to have a deep emotional connection with other, whether it's a friend or a romantic partner or a sibling, it doesn't matter. But I long for depth. And what I came to realize recently was that I had never slowed down and been conscious of the fact that I was blaming other people, like my marriage, my partner in my marriage for all those years. I would point a finger at him and say, well, he's emotionally unavailable to me. So therefore, that's why we're not able to have the depth that I desire. Or this other person over here, we can't go deep because, and do you see how that we can say that about everything? Well, there's no depth here, or they're swimming in the shallow end, or whatever. But if we're ever blaming something outside of us, get really self-responsible. It's such a compassionate thing to be able to slow down and be like, wait a minute, whenever I'm pointing a finger at anything outside of me, whether it's a person or an experience or a job or whatever, there are three fingers pointing back here. They aren't this. So that epiphany for me was, oh my goodness, I kept blaming things outside of me for the lack of depth, emotional connection. How could I ever believe that I could be deeply connected to other if I was withholding the depth with myself, the aspects of me that I was talking about before? Can you see how that works? So it's really, really beautiful when I see it doesn't matter if you're young or old and you're showing up here. It's beautiful that you're even willing to be here, to be more self-reflective, to be more still, to allow yourself the respect and the honor to be honest with yourself, to be transparent. Do you see how I was doing that? We're all doing that because we're human. We're pointing a finger out here saying, I don't like that about them, or if only they could change, then I would feel more comfortable, or only, welcome James and Isaac. I don't know James, and I think that Isaac is maybe my son. I don't know if there's another Isaac, but welcome if you're coming, showing up here now, or if you're watching this at a later date. What we're talking about is really the foundation of what I have come to believe is the foundation of all healing is Isaac is your son. Thank you, Truman. Welcome, Isaac. And James too. Welcome to all of you. But the thing I was withholding from myself, I wasn't even aware I was withholding it from me. I was blaming others, blaming life, a victim. Do you see how the energy, this is quantum physics 101. When we are living a life believing that we are a victim to anything, I'm a victim to our circumstances, that, oh, I can't control this. This is out of my control. Then we are literally giving power to something outside of us, believing that we don't have a choice. And we are living from an energy of lack, meaning I lack depth in relationship with others, but I'm blaming them for it instead of owning, oh, am I willing to go to the depth of relationship with myself? All the aspects of myself, the ones especially that I'm pushing away and avoiding that I don't like, the one that somewhere believes, oh, I just moved to a new place and the things are falling off the wall. So that's just lovely. I'm just going to laugh about that right now. Okay. So, but if I am blaming anything outside of me for not showing up the way I think it should, then I'm not being radically self-responsible and owning the fact that I am avoiding a part of myself and going deep there, getting radically self-responsible. Why am I avoiding that part of myself that thinks others should be deeper and stop swimming in the shallow end? Hello, that is not my responsibility to try to change someone else. It's impossible. The only thing that we can elicit change within is to turn in, tune in, and observe what is it that I'm actually resisting. Because the energy of resistance is we can only live in two states of being, resistance or acceptance. And those two opposing energies will change our lives if we will be more still and be aware at any given present moment now, what am I resisting? And as I live in resistance, if I can observe what I'm resisting, that's the gold. Because once you go into that resistance and start to get curious, why am I resisting that? Why? So the question I was asking myself last week is, why am I blaming others? Like, oh, my ex-husband, we had no emotional depth because of him. I was blaming him instead of saying, oh my goodness, what aspect of me was I unwilling to be in relationship with in a deeper way that would have maybe provided the space to go deeper with the other, anyone else, anything outside of me. If I can't give it here, how could I ever believe that I could go deeper elsewhere? Does this make sense? Are there any questions? Because when we start to get that clarity that can only come, like think of waters that are raging or any sort of water that's stirred up with thought or beliefs, patterns of habits that we just do without thinking. We're not slowing down. So still waters run clear. And that is a beautiful metaphor for us in our being, because if we're stirred up with thoughts or resentments or resistance, there's no clarity. What we're being invited to do, I think now in this day and age, is to slow down just a bit and become more still. So whatever feels stirred up here, this is the one thing we're responsible for here. When there's stillness, then the dust, the murk, the muck that we can't see through, all of the thinking starts to settle, and we have clarity, clarity here first. Because life is just neutral. Life is a mirror reflecting back to us what exists here. If there is a war here, there will be a war in our reality. That's how quantum physics works. Everything is energy. We are sending out a signal from the frequency of our water. We're 70% water. So if our water is stirred up and murky, guess what signal we're sending out? And literally, we're sending out a murky signal that brings back like energy. So if we don't like what our reality is, pay attention. What is your signal? What is it calling in? If there's clarity here and peace and calm and self-acceptance, not resistance to anything that is coming up in our reality, that's the sweet spot that we can work with. Because now we're aware of, oh my gosh, if I don't like my reality, it's only ever a reflection of what I believe to be true here. So if I don't like my reality, it means I'm not liking something about myself. As within, so without. Can you see how powerful this one thing can be? Is to start being aware of, like, wait, if I am unhappy with what my life is, what my experiences are, it just means that I don't have to, I get to. This is a gift. So it's not, people say, like, do the inner work. Yeah, it feels like work, but it's such a gift. It's a gift you're giving to you. And then it flows out of you into everything else. All of your relationships start to blossom because you gave it here first. So I'm going to go back to the metaphor that I was talking to the women last week. When I work with women, and I've started doing it with men too, this inner realm, if it were a garden, what would your inner realm, what would your garden actually look like? When I sit with women, it's interesting. And if you have time and feel so inclined, share with me in the chat. What does your garden look like? Is it arid and dry like a desert? Is nothing growing there? Is everything dead and shriveled? Is it wild and chaotic? If it is, that's great. Just become aware of what it is, not resisting it, not trying to think it needs to be something other than it is, just awareness of what that feels like. And it's actually a very fluid thing. It's not static. It's always changing and moving because we are always changing. We're part of nature. We aren't in nature. We are a part of nature. So just like weather patterns are coming and going and moving through the sky, so do our emotions, so do our thoughts. We are not that. We are just the observer of all this that is happening in this one instrument. And when we can have that awareness, like, oh my gosh, this is just moving through me. It's not here to stay. Our emotions don't come to stay, they come and go if we allow them to. We talked about at the beginning, like trauma, our feelings unfelt. So if they come and we push them away and avoid them, that can be a problem. And if they come and we just cling to them, that's also a problem. We're not resisting. There's no resistance. We want to be real slippery, right? That's our goal, is to let things come, let them flow. Now we're living in a state of being where we know whatever is happening is always a curriculum. It's always communication. It's always asking something of us. Pay attention. This is happening out here because it's trying to reflect back the truth of what somewhere on some level subconsciously that you have come to believe to be true. Our lived experience can only ever be what we believe somewhere on some level, whether we're aware of it or not, to be truth. If we believe that we are unlovable, that we don't matter. There's so many that we should hide, or that the world isn't safe, or that people aren't safe, or I'm not safe to be in this world. I mean, or I am bad. There's so many messages like this that we come to believe before we know better. And then we still live in that, not knowing it. How do we know what we actually believe? Well, what is your reality like? That's how simple it is. If there's something in your reality that you are resisting, be a little more still and observe. Oh, I am literally creating, by what I believe to be true, a reality that keeps showing me that I am one who does not deserve love, or that I don't matter. And that is my reality. So if your reality is showing you something that's uncomfortable, this is what, okay, I'm going to say this. And I think, Jeremy, you unmuted yourself. So you may have something to say or a question. Hold on. Let me finish this thought while I
Oh,
stop thinking it. Um, if we are that power, so if you understand the power that you have by the energy of your thoughts and your words to create your reality, because everything is just reflecting its energy. It's coming back to us, showing us what we believe to be true, whether we're aware of it or not. So if I am that powerful of a creator being to create that much suffering by a thought that I came to believe about myself when I was like 5, because my parents didn't show up the way I needed them to, or they said something that kind of hurt my feelings. So therefore, I made it mean something about me. Oh, I must not matter. Or, oh, I'm not lovable. Or, oh, I need to be this version of me for them. I'm believing this, but it may not even be true. I came to believe that I need to show up as more perfect, or I need to be the yes person. I'm going to say yes to everything. So then I'm really likable and they're going to like me. Do you see how this whole pattern starts to be set in motion when before we know better than to be like, is that true? Is that true that I don't matter because my parents are busy and they're human? So when we can get really clear on, if my reality is reflecting back something that's really uncomfortable for me, what must I have come to believe to be true that keeps playing out and trying to show me, like, finally get clear. Is that really true that you don't matter? Because you're living in an identity and life is showing you all the persistence and all the persuasive evidence that you are living in an identity that you don't matter. And everything will show you that, because everything is neutral and it will keep reflecting back until you get more curious about, wait, I don't like living in a world where I don't matter. That is really uncomfortable for me. And I will resist it. I will numb out. I will have addictions. I'll gamble. I'll go to sex. I'll go to substances. I'll go to love bombing anyone. My need to be needed will trump my desire to get more curious about what's really going on here. So if we are that powerful to create suffering over something that is an error in thinking, something that is not true, can you imagine how much power we have when we start to shift our belief about ourselves? If I'm that powerful to create suffering, that means, this is the good news, I'm that powerful to create just the opposite. So heaven and hell don't exist in a future time, because time is relative. All we ever have is now. We can talk about a future heaven or hell, but they only exist now in the thoughts that we're having about the lived experience we're having, because we are creating our reality by our thoughts. What is our inner dialogue? Do I not like myself? I like to think that I like myself, but if I'm really honest, I created so much suffering for myself because I was still believing things that I came to believe when I was really young that weren't true. So I have shifted. I have been more still. I have learned different tools and resources that I love. I'm so passionate about coming and sharing here the possibility of you being able to say, wait a minute, is it true? Whatever you came to believe when you were younger, is it really true? When you start to question it and observe your life, You get to change it. And the power of that happens in every now moment. So I'm going to go back to this quote. And then, Jeremy, I'm available for your question, or even if you want to put it in the chat too, I can answer it. But I'd love for you to speak it too. No one, no thing, I'm going to add, can lift self, love self as self can. So why do we keep seeking it, any of that validation or love or lifting, whatever you want to call it, from something outside of us? When we can actually start to give that attention to, wait, is it really true that I suck? And start actually holding tenderly. So I don't know how many of you are in relationship with someone and feeling really seen, like feeling really loved. How do you speak to that person? How do you think about that person? It's tender, it's compassionate, right? Can you imagine doing that for you? Can you imagine showing up for the version of you that ever came to believe that they didn't matter, that they weren't lovable, that something was wrong with them, that they're different, that they don't deserve love, or whatever that may look like? And it's going to be different for each one of us because we all are so unique. So whatever version, and I say they're like the Olympic rings. There's not just one. There's usually one core identity that's running the show behind the scenes. And when we can start to unravel that, it starts to undo all the rings of self-doubt and believing something less about yourself, believing the lie. If we are suffering in any way, it's because we came to believe a lie about ourselves. So the beauty of this is saying, wait a minute, I can challenge that thought now because I know enough about how this works. And when I start to tend to myself, my garden, my inner realm in a new way and actually speak to myself how I speak to a lover, how I would want a lover to speak to me. Can I do that for myself? Yes, you can. And what happens when you start to do that? Okay, Jeremy, I'm here.
Hello.
Hello.
So, um, I just wanted to maybe tell this to myself that these changes of loving yourself eh, don't happen overnight.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, yesterday I had an instance where I hate the word triggered, but for lack of a better word, I was triggered and kind of reverted back to old patterns and old ways. You know, that the the calmness wasn't there. Um,
Mhm.
and I just instead of beating myself up about it, I reflected on it and really focused on, okay, well, if this were to happen again, how would I handle it differently? Um, what could I have done different yesterday to minimize uh, the chaos that existed because of this triggering event?
Hmm. And
So
you were able to do that yesterday, or are you saying that
yeah,
now?
no, yeah, no, yeah, yesterday, last night, as I was kind of reflecting, just being aware of the way that I acted, whereas before that was just how I was.
Mhm.
Um, and now it's more, if we talk about the mirror, looking at myself in the mirror and saying, okay, well, what is it that caused me to act the way or react the way that I did?
Hmm.
Created this chaos from a day that was just fine.
Hmm.
And so then, the next question, is, well, what is it about me that allows that trigger to even exist?
Hmm. Hmm. Very beautiful awareness. I love um the metaphor of the mirror, right? It's really powerful when we can kind of see that everything really is neutral and everyone we 10 people or 100 people can watch a movie and see the very same thing, and each person, because of their lived experience and what they believe about the world and themselves and others, I could go through the 100 people and say, what did you feel in that scene? Or what did you think about the movie? What was the metaphor of that? And every single person will probably have a slightly different perception based on what they what lens they're wearing. And our lens is how we perceive everything. It's what we believe to be true, our perception, because we're like, it's true. Look, it's like if we talk to a fish and we say, you're swimming in water, they're like, what water? They have no idea. Or if someone's like, you're wearing rose tinted glasses, they're like, what do you mean? These are what? Like, but if we took them off of them and they were like, oh, if I could give you my lens and you could give me yours, because we're both wearing glasses, Jeremy or JP,
You-
we would be able to be like, oh my gosh, that's how he's seeing his experience. I see
Mhm.
it in such a different way because we are two different people having very different experiences, but what are we learning from our lived experience? I said earlier before you got here, the prize of life is emotion. We
Mhm.
are here to have lived experience, to gather emotion so we can expand into wisdom, the wisdom that comes from lived experience. And if we are judging it, good, bad, right, or wrong, now can you see how that's because we were conditioned to see and believe things are good, bad, right, or wrong,
Mhm.
instead of wait. When I start judging anything as good, bad, right, or wrong, that changes my experience because now I'm judging it. And if I'm judging anything, be sure I'm judging myself because we don't judge others unless we have judgment here. When we get really clear and we're not judging ourselves as good, bad, right, or wrong, that you can't make a mistake. We're here to live it all
Mhm.
and experience it, gather the emotions that we're having in these experiences and be wise. Be wise and aligned with that thing that we're never separate from. Whatever you want to call it, God, Heavenly Father, the great mystery, it exists. And we are not separate from it. So when we stop judging, even the deity that we came to believe is deity, if we're thinking that it's judging us as being good, bad, right, or wrong, that's even something. Do we really believe that that entity, that thing that can't even be named, maybe, is believes that it sent us here to judge ourselves and judge others? Because how does that feel in our bodies when we do that? So, okay, coming back to this, what you were saying about being aware, like, oh my gosh. So I want to ask you, JP, yesterday when you were kind of going through this, how did that feel in your body? Like how, I mean, you kind of explained it, but I want you to go a little bit deeper, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just give you the scenario. So, one of my employees, who is a nurse practitioner, was good friends with my daughters and my ex-wife.
Okay.
Um, my ex-wife lives in Utah. I still live out of state. Um, so she has she's gone out and seen them, told them multiple things. She's kind of like her mole, if you will, about me. Well, a couple weeks ago, she'd gone out there and said some untruths to my ex-wife.
Mm-hmm.
So I just simply went to her and said, I don't want you to talk any about me any longer to my wife or my ex-wife and my daughters. Um, Apparently she took that as though I was m mad at her,
Mm.
whatever. So I went to one of our clinics yesterday. She was there. I walked in, the clinic manager. Now, this isn't like this is a clinic that I go to maybe twice a month, so not regularly.
Okay.
They're like, you're in a different office today. And so I was like, okay. And mind you, it's me, the nurse practitioner, and then the two nurses. So
Mm.
I go into the office, no one's there. So I go into our normal office, everyone's in there. And one of the nurses says, apparently you and Carrie is her name, have beef. And I was like, We have beef? What do you mean we have beef?" And she's like, yeah, that's why they put you in another office. So uh, I didn't say anything. This is like I said, this is an office that we rarely go to. So it's people that wouldn't know about our what the conversations that we've had. So I went up and, got some clarity and they said, well, Carrie had said something and blah, blah, blah. So I could just feel myself getting so pissed.
Yeah.
And I went in there into the office, closed the door, and I kind of unleashed on Gary. Um, and the message was, I don't regret the message. Uh, the delivery could have used some help. Um, but then the other question is, why did I allow it to bother me so much? Let it roll off my back. What's the big deal? If she wants to feel that way, that's her right. And it almost as though like for me, I almost justified what she was saying to the people at that clinic by acting the way that I did.
Mm. Hmm. Okay. This is,
So so
yeah.
that's why I'm like, I didn't go to work yesterday anticipating to have a bad day or, pissed off. In fact, I was in a great mood. Um, and it just kind of switched like that. So I guess a question that I have for you is when it's a mirror, sometimes that mirror isn't necessarily like a conscious thought that we're having. And I think that that speaks to the 5-year-old or whatever, right? It's
Ah,
that subconscious that is reflecting. And so for me, you know, I have to, last night when I sat down and was kind of reflecting on this, that was one of the questions that I kind of went over with myself is, why did I allow this to bother me? A. B, why did I react in the way that I did? Why didn't
mm,
I just sit down, have a nice, calm conversation with her?
okay. First of all, I want to honor that you even had the awareness to self-reflect, right? People would probably, what's really probably more normal is that you would not self-reflect and you would point that finger at her. She did this. She was thinking this and all the and when we're in relationship with anything and everyone that's happening, people are always project, and we do it too. We're always projecting onto other people. Like if someone sees something that you did and they're like, oh, well, you did that because of da 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 da. And you're like, that's not why I did that. You can see how they're projecting how they would do it. So
Hmm.
really, it's a confession. When people start judging and blaming something else, it is a confession of what lives in them that they are projecting out onto their reality and trying to make it yours. And you're like, that's actually not where I was at all. Okay. So that's why it's so important to not make anything mean something about us. Because what
Hmm.
we're doing is saying, oh, well, your perception, I'm going to believe that too about me. No, I have my own perceptions I'm dealing with and my own reality, right?
So I just want to, I don't mean to cut you off, but one
No,
other thing
yeah,
was I hated the way I felt all day.
okay.
And because I knew that, I was just ashamed of myself for
Mm.
getting upset like that. Um, and I had this like feeling constantly that I needed to go apologize to her, right? Now, I don't know what her intent was. I don't,
Mhm.
and I think that this speaks to the lens thing. I don't know what her intent was. I know what the impact was to me, and the impact obviously was to her as a result of the impact that it had on me. But, perhaps her intent was pure. Maybe, but I didn't even give her the chance to explain her intent.
Hmm. Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, and this may be totally not what you're talking about. It's just, yeah, for me, it's like this reflection and just giving myself some grace as I make my way down this path.
Yes. And that's the thing. You're self-reflecting and I can already see it. And I think everyone here, anyone watching, first of all, I want to say thank you for being so vulnerable, speaking truth about something that's kind of personal. And because we all are having this, we're all living in experiences where we're dealing with people who um we're all wounded. We all
Mm,
are wounded. We're human. If we're human, we have wounding, right? And so you give grace to yourself and you're giving grace to her. I see you doing that already. That's beautiful. The thing is because of because of our humanity, we have an ego. We have a persona. We have a personality that you are JP, you are, a doctor and you have all these things. That is your persona. And the ego really, really wants to keep that persona just like it is, how it's been, because our brain is attached to, our ego is attached to that thinking mind that's keeping our persona, our personality, looking and seeming a certain way, because that's safe. Our
mhm.
ego does not want to change. Our brain is wired to fix problems. It will find problems with everything, but we are not our brain, but we have come to believe we are because it's always thinking for us. So we believe we need to believe it. And I've said this before, we have 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day, and not 85 to 90% of our thoughts are the same as the day before. So if we are not thinking about what we're thinking about and aware that, wait, is that even true? We will live a completely sleepwalking through our lives, blaming other people for how they made us feel. So when you tell me about this employee, I don't know what kind of journey is she on, I mean, everyone, there are as many paths as there are people, so, and there's no time. So we can't look at someone and be like, wake up, be more self-reflective. No, it's not our responsibility because it seems like they're out of alignment, but really our lived experiences is always just reflecting back how we feel about a certain thing or what we believe about a certain thing. We believe how they should be. When we stop trying to control, like we talked about the reflection. If I don't like something, if I'm like, oh, there's a zit on my face, and I'm going to go to the reflection and try to get it off, I can't do that. I can only deal with the real thing, not the reflection. So you saying I didn't like how I felt. So when I work with anyone and I'm like, well, how do you want to feel? How is it that you would choose to feel in any now moment? Let me ask you that, JP. Maybe it's going to answer it for other people too. What, how would you have wanted to feel? How do you want to feel?
Yeah, I mean, calm. Like I said, going to work, I felt great. I was
Okay.
calm. Everything was fine. I was in a good mood. Um, and yeah, I mean, I think living in somewhere in that range is
Huh?
where I prefer to live. Not
Yeah.
living or not residing in a place of, fight or flight, because that's exactly where I was. I was definitely outside my window of tolerance, and
Mhm.
it just showed me, all right, you got to widen that window.
Okay. Beautiful. Beautiful awareness to have. your window of tolerance, whatever you want to call it, but you being able to see, oh my gosh, I am back in trauma response. And we all do it because we have lived so much of our lives in fight or flight, worrying about things, living in the state of being of resistance that is actually past and future, believing that our past, our painful past, should or can or does inform our fearful future. So if we're living in these two states of being and never here, what are we doing?
Mm.
What are we even doing? We're just reacting all the time from a trauma response instead of being more still, because I see you now. And can you see how, like, even just that awareness brings growth because you were willing to reflect on what was I feeling? Ew, it was gross. I didn't like that energy. That is the old energy that I used to live in consistently and never even be aware that I was suffering. So now you've brought awareness to the fact that I don't like that. I don't want to feel like that. I have lived enough. I know that I create calm. I am the creator of my calm.
Hmm.
I'm not living from lack anymore. I don't believe that something else that I'm separate from is going to give me my calm. So now when I start to be like, wait, I am abundant. I am limitless. I am a creator being that created that much suffering from believing a lie. So we're always tapping into our humanity. Of course, I felt that way. And I do feel that way because I had so much momentum living that way. It doesn't just flip off. But I will say this, it'll be what we believe it will be. One of the first things you said is, well, it doesn't happen overnight. That's what you believe. Then it will be so. We will only live. Our
It's
experience can only be to the depth of what we believe to be true. If we believe that it will take forever or that I can't do it in this lifetime, then I promise you that will be your truth.
I suppose what I'm saying is I don't want to beat myself up because I didn't react the way that I
Yes.
hoped
And
I would have reacted.
yes, and giving yourself the grace to be human. You're like, well, of course, I'm going to kind of in this path, there is no perfect way. So what I want to say to you is you are doing perfect. You can't, you would be somewhere else if you were supposed to be. We're always exactly where we are, and that is perfect. Even if we're sleepwalking, that is perfect. There is no time. So no one's ahead, no one's behind, no one's like effing it up. No, because that is their path and we have ours. Our responsibility is right here. And you're doing it. You're like, "Oh my gosh." Her response was her drama by talking about it with other people. Can you see how that is a wounded masculine energy coming out? It's projecting drama out. Masculine energy is penetrative, it's out. It's taking yin. Feminine energy is more like wounded feminine would be to isolate and internalize that, thinking, "Oh, I suck. I'm just going to hide." And internalizing that, drama, whenever someone's projecting drama and trauma out, that's a wounded masculine energy. Now
Mm.
she's trying to get people to validate her position, her position. Can you see how he was wrong? He did this and that hurt me.
Oh, that's exactly what's happening. I mean,
Yeah,
so now her narrative is justified, but because I acted the way that I did. And so,
absolutely.
yeah.
But you trying to defend yourself. There's a quote from The Matrix. I forget exactly what it's, but it's like unto someone says, well, you're, you need to prove the thing. And I think he's like, my beliefs don't need to be explained to anyone. They stand on their own. So if you believe that you don't need to defend yourself because you know that you're just taking care of what's going on in here, yes, it's great to be able to go back if you want, if you feel so. It's like, be clear. If we're doing something out of fear, then don't do it. If you're doing it out of love, do it. Like if you're doing it out of the intention, like, well, I want to show up for her in my calm state and be like, you know what? We can work this out here. Let's talk.
Hmm.
right here, two people talking about what happened. Let me tell you how that felt. Let me tell you what's moving through me. That's connection.
Mm,
That's getting something done. But and you have enough self-awareness, I know, JP, to be able to do that because you're doing it here, right? You're bringing this here and you're like, I overreacted. I went back into old energy. I didn't like how that felt. How do I want to feel? I know I can access that because it only lives here. We can
mm,
blame, they made me feel this way. We've talked about the empty boats. The monk who was like meditating and he was in bliss and an empty boat came. And before he opened his eyes to see it was an empty boat, he was like, what the hell? Someone came and like intruded on my calm. And then he opened his eyes and it was an empty boat. And he's like, ah, enlightenment. We have empty boats hitting us all day long. What is it really triggering? Something that already lived in us. So stop blaming things outside of you for not loving you enough or not being peaceful or not being calm or making you feel a certain way. Start being radically self-responsible. When you fall in love with someone, we love how that feels and we think they are the source of it. No, we can't, someone outside, anything outside of us cannot make us feel something that doesn't already live here. So when we feel this massive love, the honeymoon of a first, like of the beginning of a new relationship, it's like, they are making me feel this way. No, they are a neutral mirror reflecting back what already lives here. So pay attention. If it's anger, that lives here. Tend to the anger. If it's love, honor it and be like, oh my gosh, they are a clear mirror reflecting back to me what already lives here. It goes both ways. But when you're willing to turn in and tend to the garden that wants to be wild and free, whatever it is that you want, we're all going to have a different version of a garden that we want to tend to. And it changes all the time. My garden years ago would have been maybe like an English garden or whatever. Now I want it wild and free, right? And that'll probably change in time. Like, what is your inner garden? What does it want to be like? How do you want to tend to it? How do you talk to yourself? Do you pay attention to your inner dialogue? What are you saying to yourself all the time without even awareness that you're saying that to yourself or thinking that about yourself? Because it's energy and the frequency goes out and sends out a signal. It's like your fingerprint and it's going to match with a like fingerprint. So if it's like, yeah, I suck, or I'm not even aware that I know that I think that I suck, and that's going out, it's coming back and bringing you experiences that show you that you believe you suck until you say, wait, I don't like how this feels, believing somewhere that I suck. So I'm going to go tend to the version of me that thinks I suck. And I start talking to him in a different way, being like, dude, you really don't suck. Let me tell you all the reasons why. And you start to be in relationship with all the versions of you you've avoided, and they start to come back to your wholeness. Now you're accepting all the versions of you that you used to believe sucked. And that changes how you show up for you. And you do that over and over, and suddenly you're like, I am a badass. There's nothing about me that I believe sucks. And you become the frequency of your wholeness, which is not judging anything about yourself because you're just here experiencing life so you can gather emotion and be more expanded, your soul, more wise, more like, oh, yeah, I used to believe I sucked. I've experienced that. There's a lot of suffering in that. I didn't feel so good because it's energy. The energy of believing you suck doesn't feel good.
mm.
So, what's your signal? What is the signal you are sending out all the time? Are you aware of it or not? If you don't like what your life is, check your signal because what you're experiencing right now in your reality is just a buildup of what you have believed to be true for months, years. When you start to question it and get more clear, bring more clarity, let all the murk settle, you're like, oh my gosh, I get to create heaven in here. And now my life is like heaven. No more hell. I didn't like how that felt. We've all done it. We're all doing it because we're human. Thank you for having your cameras on. I love you guys. I want to cry. Literally, I'm gonna cry that you're here, that you even care about this stuff because it's life-changing. It really, really is. Like if when you love yourself, you trust yourself to be safe, that you are safe to feel whatever is coming up in your reality and not judge it good, bad, right, or wrong. It just is here for you to live and experience it. Anger, rage, grief, joy, bliss, ecstasy, all of it. Gather that wisdom in. And now you're like a beacon. Your signal goes out and you are magnetic for all the magic that wants to live in your life. Start noticing the synchronicities in your life change because you're bringing awareness to that you don't want to suffer anymore. And you get to be the one in charge of that. If I don't like this, I can change that. It's simple. It's so simple. And yet no one taught it to us. Change your thoughts, change your life. Wayne Dyer said that. And I was like, what does that really mean? It literally means pay attention. What am I thinking about myself, about life, about the world? Is it safe? It's not safe. Really? That's what you came to believe. So, yeah, that can be your reality. And if you've experienced that long enough to know you don't like that, change your thoughts, change your reality. Okay. So I don't want to go over too much, but if any of you have questions or something that, um, anything, either put it in the chat or ask it out loud. But I'm like honored. I'm so, so honored. I have to say, the women stay hidden. They don't turn their cameras on so much. Maybe one or two will. But this right here is so beautiful because I know you are showing up for you in this way, and that is freaking awesome. That is gold. Hey, Rem, how are you? So, any questions? And JP, do you feel
Yeah.
complete? Is there something else wiggly there that you want a little more clarity on?
No, no. I think so the chaos that I was feeling was reminiscent of when I was an alcoholic. And that I lived in chaos. And
Hmm.
um, it was a reminder for me that um A, I hate residing in that state. And B, I'm grateful that I don't reside in that state as frequently as I used to. And that I'm able to acknowledge it and understand it and put a name and a face to it.
Okay, interesting. I'm going to ask you a question. What is that state? What would you call
You
that?
know, um, I just felt chaotic inside.
Chaos. Yeah,
Yeah.
you mentioned that a couple times.
Like unsettled, not calm. Uh, like a feeling that I want to fix things or I want things to be better. And
Okay.
it was that feeling that drove me to alcoholism in the first place. And
Okay.
um, and so, to feel that again, the frequency that I feel that way is so, I mean, it's a fraction of what I used to feel and how I used to feel it.
Okay.
But to
Beautifully.
still have it, is if I'm honest, disappointed. I was disappointed in myself,
Huh?
but I also have to, like you said, have grace with myself, be willing to acknowledge that I'm human and my ego jumped up and wanted to be seen yesterday, and I acknowledge that.
Yeah. Ego will always, it's always, ego is fear. Ego
Mm,
equals fear. The fear of, oh, I need to be seen this way. This is not comfortable. I'm not used to this or whatever. And let's be clear, I want to say this. Addiction is always, oh, and there's addictions go across the board. It's anything and everything. We can be addicted to anxiety or to being in our thoughts, believing the old lies or whatever. We can get addicted to that, addicted to substances, addicted to love, like love bombing people and then going to the next thing, right? Like that high, that hit, whatever it is, if it's gambling or sex or a substance or shopping or whatever it is, we all have it. Pick your poison. We are human. It lives in us. The fear of disconnection. Addiction to anything is always based in a lack of connection, believing we are separate from all that is.
mm,
So if we are disconnected here, we've talked about this before, I promise you, we will feel disconnected from all the things out here. And therefore, we are seeking, addiction is just almost good enough to satisfy that itch of disconnection. And we'll blame something else. And as a system, the world is always treating the effects of addiction. And they're starting to wisen up and say, no, 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 no. We need to go back to the cause and deal with the root cause of addiction, which is always based in disconnection, feeling other, like I'm not good enough, whatever that original pain, that OG pain is, that's what we're trying to soothe. And we think it's going to come from something outside of us. But the original disconnection is with self. When we start to tend here, you guys, I promise this is the healing. When you start to love on yourself, even the part of you that's addicted, yes, love on him. He needs your attention. He needed it way back then, but you didn't know it. You thought that a parent could soothe you, or that a relationship, or a job, or a degree would soothe that feeling of disconnection from self. So when you start to tend here, everything starts to change because it's always been waiting for you to connect with you, the deepest part of you that's been seeking love, validation, all of it, and is doing some self-soothing thing, porn, masturbation, whatever it is. It's based in disconnection. The root cause isn't based in, oh, my parents did this or said this. It's that I abandoned myself, my little self, because I didn't know better, to be the version I thought they needed me to be, which was not authentic me. So when I love myself enough, I stop judging the versions of me that I think should be different and love her, just like not judging that that's good, bad, right, or wrong. It just is. So I tend to it and I connect with the aspect of me that can never leave me. And now I'm in the flow. I'm not judging myself like, oh, yeah, I'm acting out again. Okay, it's part of the path. You're human. You're going to act out again. You have a lot of momentum doing that thing. That's okay. It's when we judge it that it stays, you want to control it, right? You said, I want to control this. When things feel out of control, we'll do anything to feel in control with this one thing. You see, and addiction thrives on secrets and shame. That's what
mm,
drives addiction. So if I'm judging, this is so bad, nobody can know that I do this or think this or said this or I'm doing this thing. That drives the addiction even more because I'm not accepting the fact that I'm human and I'm using this thing to self-soothe because I'm disconnected from the part of me that wants attention. So that's a whole other thing. And if you want me to talk to that in a future thing, please let me know. I worked in that field clinically for some years in addiction and betrayal trauma and just trauma. Being human is traumatic. Really, it is. Let's be honest. So, okay. Thank you. JP, you just bringing all this up the way that you did is so powerful. Everyone I know, like shout out to JP. for being honest, being vulnerable, speaking your truth with so much tenderness for yourself. We can feel it. You showing up like this for you is so beautiful for everyone else because it gives the energy of permission for them to do the same for themselves.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for showing up here with so much grace, being human. We love you for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's solid. Okay, guys, thank you for being here. And please share. Please share. Everyone, I do this for free because this information should be free for every human. I hope to create spaces where I can charge people that can afford it so I can keep doing this for free and taking the thing that I'm so passionate about because I see how much has changed me and I see it working in other people's lives. Just love right here. And when you're loving here, oh, it's so beautiful to have that flow out into everything in your life. And your signature sends out a, a, like a ripple of love and it starts bringing back just so much beauty. Yeah.
Radar
Okay.
of love.
A radar of love. Is that what you said, Truman?
Yeah, it goes and bounces back.
Absolutely. That's what it is. Everything just energetic ripples out. And what are we sending out? It's can be love or fear. Pay attention. Yeah. If you're like, oh my gosh, everything is evidence in my reality of fear. Well, what did you send out? It's just calling back in what you sent out. So it's almost like an experiment, you guys. Experiment with sending out ripples of love and see how that starts to change things. If you like it, keep going. You should send us the link for the women session if you do one when it happens so we can share to women we know. Okay, Eli, yes, I will do that. I will do that. I didn't think of
You
that.
do that, don't you?
Um,
I get them. I get them in my email.
oh, if you're on my email, I send out the link for women and it might be going to you, sorry. But if you want to share it with anyone, a sister, a friend, a cousin, an aunt, and a mom, I don't know. Yes,
I
this is
tried logging in, but it wouldn't let me in.
what?
I'm joking. That was a joke.
I'm like, it's the same link, guys. It's just the same link. I have one Zoom. If you could show up and keep your camera off, we're talking about the same things, but just in a different way. Wounded, like how have we been living and what's worked and what hasn't? How were we raised? How did that work? How did it not work? And so much grace for our parents and grandparents on and on back because they didn't have the resources that we have. Nobody was talking about the things that we're willing to talk about now. And what a beauty. I mean, this is because time is relative. The work that we do here, it literally changes everything that ever happened in the past and future because we're doing it now. We can only talk or think about things in the past now or the future now. So when we're doing this work for ourselves, that's what they call ancestral healing, generational healing. Because who are our ancestors? Like, did they exist in the past? Like, time is relative. We keep thinking, oh yeah, this big linear thing that's over here and here. Mm-mm. I know, okay. Some people who haven't really studied quantum physics or sat with that thought, they're like, I can't even think that. It just blows my mind. But that's the truth. That is the foundation of our existence. We're in a three-dimensional time where it feels like things are linear. That space is like, I can say this exists there. It's all happening right now, right here, right now. So why not live in love and have everything be a reflection of what we send out? And it starts to heal everything right here, right now, and out into whatever you want to think that it exists in. So, what a beautiful concept. Can you imagine healing your ancestors' shit for them? What a gift. And you being here right now, you are a change maker in your families. I promise you that. You are a change maker in your family. Just you showing up in love, not trying to change anything. And out here, showing up in love sends out energetic things that they may not even know what they're feeling. And it gives them permission to do the same for themselves. I promise that's how this works. So keep going, keep trusting the process. You can't get it wrong. There is no time. There's no like, oh, I should have done that better. No, you just choose now to live in the frequency of your wholeness, which is love. And it shifts everything. And it really starts with your choice to decide to live now in love over and over and over. And if you did it just past time, like 10 minutes ago, I was like in my head. JP said, yesterday, I didn't like how that felt. I wanted to fix everything and control it and explain myself. Okay, yeah, but now you're choosing love again. So simple. Here we go. Over and over, choosing love. And we get really good at it and we start changing everything in our reality because we get good at choosing love, choosing ourselves over and over. Knowing that we're safe to choose love and that we can trust ourselves to do that. That's it. Like knowing, oh, I'm safe to feel all the feelings because I know I'm going to show up in love for myself, in love with myself. Okay.
Does it have to be first for yourself and not for other people? Because I feel like sometimes it seems selfish to be, I don't know, favoring oneself.
Yes. Thank you for asking that question, Truman, because that is the crux of what we were conditioned to believe, that that would be selfish. I can only speak from my lived experience and working with a lot of women. Somehow in the culture that I was raised in, and most of the women that I work with, I think it's just the overculture of women to be overgivers, to be nurturers and nourishing all the people around them. And then they put themselves at the very back of that line of showing up for themselves because they believed what they saw modeled by their mom and their grandma, and then all the women in their lives. That was my experience, was that you serve everyone first, and then you feed yourself. Then you're giving from a place of depletion, exhaustion, resentment, and that energy that goes out and that creates a reality that is based in resentment and frustration and depletion over and over. So you start to do more thinking, I need to do more, I need to serve more, and you get more depleted. So when you
Mhm.
tend to the temple, the vessel that you are, can you imagine what that feels like to give from a place of wholeness? The wellspring that never ends is love. That love, there is no cap on love, but it will deplete if you haven't restored that well, that inner garden, whatever that is, whatever metaphor you want to call it. If you haven't given, you you can't give to someone else what you haven't given to yourself first. That is true. So if you're serving everyone, pay attention. How do you feel? Are you resentful? That's just showing you. Ah, that's right. I have it backwards. I'm doing what I saw everyone do. There's a new way, and it's love of here first. Now it's so easy to give from that place because now when you show up for yourself, you know how to say no. And no is okay. You can say, "Oh, I'm not available for that right now." Or let me think about that for a minute. And then you think about it and you're like, would I do that because it's duty, desire, fear, or love? If I'm doing it because it's my duty and I have to do it, maybe I don't want to do that. Because then I might resent it because I feel I have to do it out of fear because I want them to like me. But if I do it out of love and desire and it's true, there's no resentment. I'm doing that because I know what my yeses and my nos are because I can trust myself. Remember, I'm safe to trust my yeses and my nos. But if I've never understood what my yes and no is because I'm just giving
What are
without
you laughing at?
who's laughing? I don't know. Truman, did you? I don't know. Anyway, okay. Now I'm just talking over, but I hope that explained your question, Truman.
It did.
I have an analogy for
Okay,
Jermaine.
Isaac.
It's you have to fill up your own cup, and everything that overflows, you give to everyone else.
Yeah.
So you can't just start pouring, like, giving all your love, I guess you could say, is like the metaphor, to everyone else, and then your cup's just empty. Now you're just gonna be like, I think, Mom, you're saying resentment. Like you have like a subconscious like resentment towards other people because they're stealing your love, even though you weren't giving it to yourself. You were the one doing it, giving it to other
Yeah.
people. So you gotta fill up your cup, and then it overflows, and you give it to everyone else.
That's great.
Yes.
A great one.
Perfect. I love that because it's such a simple truth that if we are feeling resentful and we're blaming someone else, like, well, they are asking me to do this and I have to say yes. Pay attention. You can't, when you're blaming or judging anything and you're resentful,
Mhm.
it's because you didn't tend to yourself in the way with love, right? And you're blaming someone else for it. Well, they asked me to, I have women all the time that are grandmas, and they come to me and they're like, I don't know. My kids ask me to babysit their kids. And I say yes, because a good grandma should. And so they say yes and yes and yes. And now they're known as the yes grandma. But guess what? They get to figure out what that looks like. If they're resenting their yes, and they're like, then they aren't tending to their own
Yeah.
needs, right? Like, actually, I'm not available for that all the time. Yes, I can do that. And thank you for asking, because now I know my yes actually means yes, and people can trust you. Do you know people in your life that if you ask them to do something, if they're available, they will say yes. And if they're not, they're going to be honest and say, I can't do that right now. You trust them because you know they trust themselves to know what their yeses and nos are. That's called, I don't even like calling it boundaries. I call it my noble threshold. A boundary or a threshold isn't to keep anything out, it's to maintain your energy. Now you're not leaking energy out and being resentful at others for leaking. You're the one, you're your own vessel and container. How are you guarding your energy? Are you resentful of yourself and projecting that onto others? So pay attention. That's a whole other discussion too. But I love the idea. If it's flowing freely here in your garden, it will flow out into everything without resentment, because you will only let it flow where you know you want it to go. Where our attention goes, our energy flows. And if our energy is flowing towards resentment, guess what we're building? More resentment. So, okay, you guys, thank you so much for being here. Like, my heart, this is like the highlight of my week. Seriously, to be here with you guys. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Share the good news. Send out the signal. Love on yourself and see what happens. Start watching for synchronicities in your life to change as you start to change, and be aware of your thoughts. And when you start to judge them, turn toward it. Be like, oh, actually, no, come here. Come sit with me, the version of me that keeps doing that thing that I'm judging. It's okay. I'm human. It's okay. That's the secret that nobody knows. We're all okay just as we are. we're all the versions of us that we think are good, bad, right, or wrong. They're perfect. They're just another version of perfect. You can't make any mistakes. How does that feel to know you've never made a mistake? You're just exactly where you're supposed to be because you're gathering experience and wisdom from all of it. That's why we're here. Okay. I love you all. Thank you so much. And I will send this out. If I don't have your email and you want this, like, I send out the recording. If you would like it, let me know and I'll get you on my email list. And then you can share it with whomever. I have a YouTube channel, Buffalo Queen, that has all of this. So if you ever get bored and you're driving and you just want to hear something, you might learn something new about yourself and how to love on yourself more. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
And I will see you next month. Thank you, all
Bye,
of you.
Mom.
It's
Hard
good.
as hell. Bye.
Ciao. Namaste.
Bye.
Okay, namaste.
Sayonara. I love you.
Bye.
Ciao. Thank you.